Well, I mean, I never listen to Non-Taken. Why would I?
Ladies and gentlemen, episode 400. Where's
Hell
the
yeah.
Bring out the bongos. Hello, Cat. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Friend of the show, his second appearance, Simon King.
Hello. Why did I wave?
Simon King joins the program for episode 400. Man, 400 shows. Here we go.
Yeah, we're really stoked to have you back. Normally, when we have a guest on, we have like questions a mile long, kind of like last time we had you on. We were like, well, we want to ask him this. We wanted to get to this. And this time we're like, we're going to do our headline. I guess I didn't tell you this. I hope you're okay with this. We're going to do our headlines roundup. We'll go through our headlines. And if we don't get through them because we riff too much, we'll do that. But I don't know. Everybody loved you on here last time.
Oh, that's nice.
So you're so informed. You're so able to riff off of stuff. We're like, this is easy. I could just show up. I have like something at the beginning I want to start the show with, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
I was like, we could probably just do a whole show about the debate. Like, we could probably just do that.
We could. I was going to say, you thought what more patriotic on this, the most hallowest of days, than to have a Canadian on.
Indeed.
A Canadian with a particularly dark sense of humor who every year does a 9/11 joke. So this is why not have this on?
It makes perfect sense.
Your neighbor to the north.
We are here for it. We are here for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, don't you remember? Because we normally do our second show of the week, which this is. We normally record it a Thursday night. So I was like, okay, we'll see you next Thursday. And you're like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be on Wednesday. I'm like, oh, that's right, 9/11. How did I not?
Yes. I forgot. Well, I'm going to be in Montreal tomorrow, and I think just the juxtaposition of being in a French place that wants to be apart from Canada, talking about America. Especially given that I flew in, it would just be a bit weird. I should have done it on the plane. Oh, I should have done it on the plane. That would have been great. I mean, I'm talking about the guy next to me. He's like, "What are you guys talking about?" I was like, "Nothing." Just reminiscing.
Big plans. So I was going to ask you something along the lines of people's sense of humor, sort of as an icebreaker question. So I think my way of getting there will be. We had to use backup channels to get a hold of each other today because your Instagram got deleted yet again. What's the deal with that? And maybe can you explain that in the context of the relationship between people who like comedy and people who can take a fucking joke?
Yeah. So back in February, I opened my Instagram account, found that it had been removed and blocked and everything, and I couldn't figure out why. And I had put up a video prior to that talking about how the extreme right are all about how people on the left are snowflakes and everything. But I said they're usually the most sensitive because anything you put up that conflicts their worldview, they get very aggressive. And to prove me right, my account and then removed. So what happens is people go on there, and if they have multiple enough attacks of people saying that you're posting inappropriate content or you aren't who you say you are, which is a big deal with verified people. As far as I know, what I got it because I'm verified. Like I was old school verified, so I didn't buy it. So they can't it's one of those verified where it's like Instagram said, oh, this is that person.
Yeah.
And so they take it very seriously if you are full of it, if you're posting stuff that's not appropriate. And I think the algo tripped. Nobody works at Meta anymore. It's just a Roomba with a pencil on it that goes around and presses buttons. That's how you get famous too. That's what it does. It goes around and presses buttons. It's like, you'll be famous for this, Hawk Tua, and then it just does that. And so that's how the internet works. I don't want to give them any secrets of show business here, but then so it took me. Instagram said your account is it's not coming back. It's not happening. I went through every channel in the world. It took 6 weeks. I got it back. Right. Finally got my account back. 3 days later, I posted, "I'm back," and something along those lines. Immediately gone again. So I was like, "Oh, here we go." Yeah. So then I've been free and clear for a few months, and then what I think happened was James Earl Jones died. And I posted,
you know what? I'll be the first to admit I didn't get the joke at first. I had to get it.
Yeah.
I knew you were being an asshole.
No, I wasn't. What I was doing was I put sad news. James Earl Jones had died. He died, which I thought was fun. It's a tribute, right?
I thought
the Imperial March is playing behind it, right?
Yeah.
And then I mass unfollowed, mass. I mean, 200 people. No one fucking notices, except for the fact that they have to announce that they're leaving. Oh, I'm leaving this place that I don't like. I was like, you just fucking leave.
Yeah.
Never give a
and
shit.
if 10% of those people complain as they do it, that'll
That's what it is. So, and I don't know whether that's exactly what it was, but I think what it was the post, because I like to poke people because I'm a dick. And so I put up a post that was like, no one gives a fuck if you leave.
Yeah.
Which I think they responded with, oh yeah? And then now I'm in limbo again. I was assured last time that this won't happen as much again because as your account gets a little bigger, I'm in that sweet spot of targeting too, where people, so there's another thing that happens is people attack your account, shut your account down, and then all of a sudden you'll get a message, as I did last time, from someone who goes, I can get your account back. It's $2,000 to get that shit too. To which I replied, fuck it. It's arbitrary numbers on a computer screen. I can get. It's not. Look, it's not 99,000 people actually following me. All right, it's not like some weird Jonestown I've got going on.
Right.
It's probably like 8 dudes, and you two included, and then like a bunch of those Roombas, and then there's some guy in Russia who might find me funny, and he's like, I will make these guys famous, and then that's all. So now I may never get my Instagram back again, which I will then immediately start. And the next time I do it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my Instagram, and I'm going to see how fast I can get removed for content.
That's the game. I like.
Yeah, because it's just so stupid. It's like one of those things where it's like, so I can post, whatever I post, if it upsets someone enough, they can, because one person can actually do it if they spam bot you enough.
Right.
They can actually. So it's a ridiculous hole in the system.
Right.
So I appealed to them today because I also use it for advertising, and I spend a fuck ton on advertising. Right. So for shows, right? So I contacted them today and go, hey, you know how I spent? That's how I got it back last time. Yeah. You know how I spent a bunch of money on advertising? She's like, yeah. I go, I'm going to stop doing that until I get my Instagram. And all of a sudden, the account that couldn't be restored was restored in 2 hours.
Oh, magical.
Yeah, weird. So I sent a message to the old Zuck today and said the same thing, and my response was, no, we can't restore your account. I'm like, yeah, let's see. But I'll get it back. If I don't get it back, who gives a shit? I'll just start a new one. None of it matters. No one cares. No one gives a fuck about a 37-year-old Canadian comedian. I'm no Matt Rife. I'm not gonna crowd work.
I don't know. You could get some jaw surgery and maybe you
Yeah, I could pull that off. When Dustin told me your account got deleted, I was like, oh, was it the James Earl Jones thing? Because that was really funny. And he's like, I don't know. We'll ask.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it could have been. It could have been one of those things. Because people have no sense of humor. A lot of people have no sense of humor, so they couldn't even get their head around the fact that it was funny.
Right.
Or I mean, because it's clearly, I'm not being a dick. If you read it, I put in it that I really liked the guy and he was a legend.
Right.
And it had the Imperial March theme behind it.
Yeah.
Apart from anything else, this is not the kind of thing you should get removed from Instagram.
No.
Exactly, right? Because I had a guy legitimately posting comments on all of my videos using the N-word and all these racial slurs. And I actually very rarely do this, but I blocked him and then reported him. And they said, there's nothing we can do. I go, this guy's legitimately hate-mongering.
Yeah. You actually have a drop-down menu and it says hate speech or violence. Yeah. And like, what is this?
It doesn't say James Earl Jones at all.
That superseded what theirs was. Yeah.
It doesn't say James Earl Jones references. If it said that in community guidelines, I'd take my piece. I'd be like, well. So here we go. So I don't know. I might not be but you can find me on TikTok and on fucking Facebook. Another meta. I just don't want to do. I just want to hold signs up on a street. That's all I want to do. Can't take that away from you, can they? They will.
They might.
Yeah.
So it is bizarre though that somebody who would follow you in the first place as a comedian, because presumably they like comedy, would then not be able to take a joke back to.
I mean, you get some hate follows too, and don't forget that people might follow you from one video. Like, okay, I posted a pro-trans rights thing a little while ago, and I lost 2,000 followers, which means there are 2,000 people following me who were that viciously against trans people. So I'm glad they're gone. I mean, the 200 people that I lost from this last one, which is a minor quake, I'm glad they're gone, because I'm like, you're not going to buy a ticket to my show, and if you do come to my show, you're not going to be there.
Right.
It's like that thing I posted a little while ago, the AI thing of the guy of reading the hate mail that I got. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to come to my show. So why do I need you here? Like, this is purely economic. I'm purely here to suck money out of the system. I have no joy in art at all anymore. I don't want to create anything. I just want to get what I can and get the fuck out. That's all it is. America is my Fort Knox. I'm going to take all of your attendance money. That's all I'm doing. Actually, if I wanted to do that, I'd become one of those right-wing comics, those guys who clearly sell out. It's being a hard right-wing comic's like being a Christian rocker. It's like, they're not there for the music, dude. They're not there for that.
Right.
They're there for the
it's like, because there's the whole, that was kind of one of the things I was kind of asking you about, because it's like, people that say like, oh, you know, you can't take a joke. I'll say what what you're afraid to, and they go on to say something blatantly offensive. It's like nothing funny. And it's like those are the same people that say, well, the left can't meme. Well, maybe that's true, but the right has shitty comics with a few exceptions, right? And even those ones are like you said, like they're like there's a formula they dropped into almost, right?
No one's going to see Rob Schneider for Rob Schneider.
100%.
They're going to see. Hopefully, Sandler will show up.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't show up, they're just going to sit through it.
Right.
I had this joke. I said Schneider couldn't get AIDS unless Sandler gave it to him.
You know what? I gotta press this button to start the show at some point. That's as good as it gets. I don't edit anymore. I edit this show in the sense that like raccoons wash food. Technically, I do it, but it's not really a way that like people normally recognize. I mean, hit the button.
Y'all let me in this damn house.
Should we hit record?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
All right, you ready?
I am ready. Are you recording?
Oh, get ready. I'm going to be loud. I apologize. Yes. All right. Well, you want to start a show?
Let's start a show.
That podcast is filling your head with garbage.
No offense taken there.
Well, it sounds like none taken.
Ask your mama, she'll say the same thing. I got all the ways, I just ain't got the means. Boom!
To episode number 400 of Not Taken, the internet's only debate and current events show with your hosts Dustin and Alan, and today very special guest Simon King. Because I listen to 13 hours of podcasts a day and Alan watches 3 hours of cable news, this man tells comedy for a living. He's got his other bona fides. We'll get to them. But get ready to take the sledgehammer to the culture war echo chambers. That's our edgy right-wing catchphrase. But first, it's Friday, and we got a sound we play on Fridays.
So, another Friday is upon us. What'll you be doing, Smithers? Something gay, no doubt. What? You know, lighthearted, fancy-free. Mothers, lock up your daughters. Smithers is on the town.
Exactly, sir.
Exactly, sir. All right, everybody. Welcome back. It's Friday. It's episode 400. I got a couple of things I got to say, as is tradition. Head on over to nonetakenpod.com if you would like to see the video of this. If you'd like to see what we were doing before the show, me and Alan talked for like 20 minutes or so. We had some sound bites we played. We did a little bit of debate recap. We tried to lay off it a little too much because we're not really selling the content. We are going to talk more about that in the show with Simon. But, you know, you hear me say it every week. If you want to join the Patreon, it's $3 a month. You get the same benefits at any dollar amount because this is not a business. We'll just call it that. If you'd like to join at $9 a month, you get the exact same thing. At $18 a month, you get the exact same thing, but you also get this shirt that says Culture War Veteran. If you like our show, chances are you've earned a shirt that says Culture War Veteran. Again, that's nonetakenpod.com. I'm supposed to say it 3 times, nonetakenpod.com. Alan, what else can they do there?
Our merch store is over there. You can get some cool hoodies. You can get some We Say Cunt in This House mugs. All kinds of cool stuff over there. All our socials, RSS feeds, everything you need None Taken is at nonetakenpod.com. Also, don't forget to support the people that support us. Slickestdigital.com for all your SEO and marketing needs. Slickestdigital.com.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Right. This is your show, buddy. I'll let you. Here's the wheel.
Friday is here. Have a can of beer. Let's go, everybody. We made it to another weekend. Episode 400. Who would have thunk it back in April of 2020?
Oh, man.
I think
we were just anxious and finding an outlet. We're like,
yeah. The only way I knew what day it was because when we did the show, that was
no shit, right? I forgot about that. There's so many like I don't think idiosyncrasy is the right word. There's so many like little things about our habits during that time period that we forget about. They come back to us. Yeah. And like we're starting to see media that's daring to touch it. Have you ever noticed after hey, happy 9/11, George Bush is here. Let's
look at that.
At the statue of George Bush. Let's see what he has to say. Hold on. This is
working. Oh no. He's not working.
Okay, well, George Bush.
He said mission accomplished. That's what
Probably.
he said.
That's probably what he said. Yes. One of his famous catchphrases, mission accomplished. Yeah, I mean, so like after 9/11, like, you know, it slowly creeped into media, but just in ways that they could tolerate it. It's weird. Like COVID, they're like, won't touch it. Like they'll have things that like this took place in 2021. It's like, are you sure? Like you guys are acting real cool. But anyways, we're not here for that. But that is a quick little trip down memory lane as to how we got here. And 400 episodes later fucking blows my mind.
Yeah,
I love talking to you. I love all the things that it's brought into our life, like getting to have
Simon King.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hello. Hello. I didn't want to interrupt because it was so nostalgic and lovely. And congratulations on 400, by the way.
Thank you.
Older than most turtles. I don't even. There's probably a couple of turtles out there. 450-year-old turtle there. But it's funny that you have that George Bush action figure because one of the very first, I would say, political jokes that I ever had back in like 03, 04. When did he did Mission Accomplished? It was like 03, right? And 03.
Yeah, it was early into the Iraq War.
It was the complete opposite of Mission Accomplished.
Right.
It was like
Right.
it hasn't started. It was like it was like
Major operations were over with.
Yeah, it's like I'm here now. We'll just say it, and then we'll air it later. We're airing it now. Anyway,
Right.
so but my joke was George W. Bush has an action figure. It's useless without the Dick Cheney control unit, but he fucking has one. That's proto Simon. That's like 25-year-old, 24-year-old Simon jokes.
And now that man is Democratic Party endorsee.
Yeah.
Dick
We
Cheney.
covered that last
Can
show.
you? I mean, here's the thing. All right, now from a Canadian's point of view, up here, looking at it from our point of view, it's like we all know. I mean, clearly, I don't care where you stand politically. Trump's fucking nuts and a problem, and he's created this. Well, he's exacerbated the animosity that exists in America. I'm not saying he created it. I'm saying that he
Tapped
don't
into
just
it
build that.
for
Tapped
selfish
into it.
reasons.
Demagogues do that. But for people to act like, you go, he's the worst president in the history of the United States. I'm like, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney killed 1 million brown people. So let's just get a little, they tanked the economy, nearly destroyed the United States, and killed 1 million brown people, and kept a war going that cost what was it, $6 trillion? Or I can't remember what it is, 20 billion a day or something.
Yes.
A shit ton of money. So that's long-lasting, permanent advocate, and also all the environmental damage they did by not doing. I mean, that was by far the worst administration in recent memory in terms of long-term damage to the country. Even the economic crisis stuff has not bounced back fully from that. Trump is a fucking idiot and all this other shit that he's doing. But in reality, in terms of damage to the country, to act now like somehow Dick Cheney could just be like, I'm not that guy.
He's a response. He's a response from the right of the people that were disillusioned with the neocons. So he is like he wouldn't exist as a modern politician. 2008 Donald Trump wouldn't be able to run in the way this one does. It's all downstream from that. Yeah.
No, I mean, the Tea Party movement was the first indication this was going to happen. You can spread this. You can actually pull this all the way from Gore because Gore. I remember the election. I'm old enough now. I remember
that was my first time to vote. That was my very first time to vote.
And if you look at it from the outside of the point of view, the guy whose brother was the governor of the state that he happened to flip that he won, just that's comedian. And so what happened from then on, it was just like this long line of like, because America had unheard of prosperity, partially because of the .com boom and all that other shit that happened in the late 90s. It wasn't all just Clinton, but it was like all of that. Like, no, I'm not saying they were, because they weren't, but the position that the States was in when George W. Bush took over was economically the best it had been in a long time. It was, global power, all these other things that happened.
Just the optimism of winning the Cold War and having no enemies.
And just doing that thing. And you can't, bullets don't expire. You got to use them if you want to sell more of them. So they got to make a war happen, and they got to find one.
Why we need to give the weapons to Ukraine and buy more from Raytheon. Yes, exactly.
Well, this is the biggest supporters of giving the weapons to Ukraine are the arms suppliers. It's like, I don't care who buys these things. I don't give a fuck. It's like Nicolas Cage in Lord of War.
Yeah.
It's all like, I don't care who gives the fucking money. The United States did this in World War I. They funded both sides until one ship sank. I can't remember, the Liberty. And then they were like, fuck.
Not the Liberty. We don't talk about that. We're not talking about
Don't drink the Liberty. But now George W. Bush is sitting there as a $500,000 that he is, like fucking, he's an idiot, and he's just painting away.
Yeah.
And I hear that he plays the screams of soldiers' families while he paints. So that really gets him in the spirit of it. All those veterans that he created for no fucking reason.
You remember that
So
lady who was
anyway.
camping out in front of his yard for like years? The mom of someone.
Yeah. Oh, what was his name?
That wasn't the football player's mom, was it?
No, I don't think
Pat
so.
Tilden or whatever.
Pat Tillman, yeah.
Yeah.
Tillman was an interesting one too because he's like, they tried to use him as because he looked like a GI Joe,
Right.
And they tried to use him on the right as this poster boy, but he didn't follow any of their leads. He just wanted to serve his country.
Yeah. And then it turned out it was friendly fire.
It was friendly fire. Yeah.
And then like
And
just
so-
think about that now, right? Like, so he didn't get drafted, but like think about World War II and that we were like sending baseball players to play to fight in the war, like and actors and stuff. I mean,
and shit. Yeah.
yeah, and I know it was World War II, but like Elvis Presley, I think with Korea, correct? Like it, like what? Can you picture Timothy Chalamet like just like bayoneting some Chineseman? Like Alan says, I have to say Chineseman. He says Chinaman.
No.
Chinese.
I know Chineseman feels clumsy, right? Chinaman makes more sense.
Chineseman sounds like a movie.
It does.
Chineseman.
It does. Starring.
Well, great. So I feel like we should get into our headlines. Otherwise, we're just going to do this the whole time.
Which is totally fine. And we'll
Which
still
is
do
fine.
this with
I
the
think
headlines.
eventually you're going to be like, I have to go, and we're going to have all these. So to start us off with our topics,
I gotta take the tree down.
yeah, I have.
I gotta take those trees down.
I have a sound to set us up for this first headline. I'm sure you've paid attention to the debates, or if not the debates. You said last time you were on here, you have to pay attention to American politics because we have such an influence on your life.
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah.
So this
apartment next
is,
door is on fire. It kind of matters to you.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
oh,
my
you on Instagram. What's that like?
yeah, let me show you. Yeah. Look, 37 people liked something I did. When was the last time you got a notification? So here is my favorite insight from probably the best moment from last night's debates.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
It's not edited. That's just perfect. It falls.
That's what he said.
That works perfectly, especially since Peanuts is largely features Snoopy.
Right.
So I mean, it's like you could just picture some guy chasing around a dog with a knife and fork.
And the bird.
When he says things like that, do you think it's like, I feel like his brain is like that episode of I Love Lucy with the chocolates that just keep coming out. She can't stop them. And I think his mouth is like, oh no. Like, it's just insanity. And like, it's closer than ever. Oh.
In his life, it's always worked out for him, right? Like in his life, he's like, if I just keep going, it doesn't matter that halfway through I was so wrong. I could say the right by the end. All my friends will back me up. I mean, I'm kind of like that. Maybe you're probably kind of like that too. Like if you have the gift of gab at all, you tend to have gotten yourself in a bad position, but if you talk long enough, you can fix it. And as long as people are charitable to you, they'll understand what you say by the end in totality than the first half where it was terrible. Well, I just call me crazy. I don't want to vote for someone to be the leader of the country I live in that is like winging it and like just fixing it in post.
I feel like he's the kind of guy, like if he was allowed to bring stuff to the podium with him, he would have printed all the right-wing memes and like had a stack of them and just been like, look at this. I have this meme. Because that's basically what he did with the pets and the, the trans surgeries in prison, the immigrants, all of that. It was all just right-wing memes, which were easily verifiably false. Like it was just so fucking obvious.
Well, I baited people. I mean, I wouldn't say I baited people. I'm being genuine about it. I asked people because I have posts and I engage on this, and people were like, "It's real. It's true. It's happening." I'm like, "Fantastic! If you can prove it, you'll be the first one. Let's fucking do this."
Yeah.
And people started
doesn't matter.
Every time they DM me something, I would like reverse image search it, and I'd be like, "Well, this happened in Columbus. They're saying it's in Springfield, Ohio." I'm just gonna say you need to get the city right if you're gonna say this whole thing. Like maybe this person is eating a duck in Columbus. Oh, look at this person. They ate someone's cat. Okay, they ate a living cat in a driveway. That's a crazy person. And that also happened in Canton, Ohio. Again, not Springfield. And then someone else was like, "Well, this is happening in New Jersey." It's like, do you understand the assignment? Like it's the more that's your evidence, the more I can tell that it's bullshit, and I'm less inclined to believe it.
In Minnesota, they've got guys eating guys. In Minnesota, they have a blonde guy, great-looking guy, and he ate all these people, black people, because he's not racist. He ate all these people. I think his name was Obama. Anyway, and then it's just like you're just like, what the fuck is he talking about? But you're right. I think he yaps enough. But that it's just. But the thing is, that's the thing about having money and being from a powerful family is that people don't tell you to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Kanye. Somebody should have sat him down at some point and go, shut the fuck up. But he won't do it because he's worth $1 billion and all this other stuff. And Trump, regardless, is in this position now where he holds sway over a rapidly collapsing Republican Party. But the problem is now they don't know what to do without him. So they're desperate. But even they are turning on him now and starting to panic because they're like, well, what the fuck is... Like that debate was so... I saw chunks of it because I was busy doing it. I couldn't see it all. So I saw like recaps and chunks of it. And it was, I mean, to me, there's no choice here. Like you could put up a legitimate conservative Republican, old school, Herbert Walker style, neocon, even, Republican style. You could do that. You can even make an argument for that. Would be wrong about economics. But in this position, you are now dealing with someone who is, going to be into his 80s if he gets in, and is running for office so he doesn't have to go to prison. That's his whole thing. He just doesn't know how else to not go to jail. And he might anyway. The fact that he is convicted of that many felonies and that clearly culpable in January 6th, and here discussing it on 9/11, which is another incidence of terrorism on domestic. So this is what happened on January 6th, and that person is considered, and he has a shitter full of secrets that he stole. Why is nobody talking about what would you do with those? You're not gonna I just need things to write out. No, he's doing that because he wants to eventually, if he doesn't become president, I swear to God, this guy's gonna run to Russia or some shit and hide. Wherever he's gonna hide, he's gonna bargain something and get the fuck
Said he'd
out
go
of
to
here.
Venezuela.
Interesting.
Venezuela, wherever he's gonna go, because what else would you need those secrets for? I thought at first they were like economic papers stuff. They're fucking military secrets. That alone is treason, which I believe is still punishable by death in the United States. So,
and he's the
good thing for old Judge Gannon down there in Florida that he's probably not going to face any consequences for that, or it seems unlikely. The Jan 6th part, the way he tried to distance himself from that in the debate, I don't know if you saw it, but he was
I did see that.
I told me to give a speech. I don't know. Like, I showed up and give a speech, and then, they did that. It wasn't me.
Yeah, I was in my tent the whole time.
I've seen comedians do that. I've seen comedians get booked at a gig at a corporate or something and do terrible shit and be like, I don't know. I didn't. It's like, that's what they wanted me to crowd work him. He said, tell me my wife is fat. That's what he said. And I did it because I was told to do it. And then I don't know. And I think I should say I'm paying for the gig. And that's it was comedian behavior. I've never seen anything like it. It was open mic comedian behavior when he's like, no, I told I didn't do it. I didn't fucking nice.
And what's the common thread there, right? That's people that don't feel like responsibility should rest on their shoulders, right? But you're running for a responsibility office, like
that's the whole job. The buck stops here.
Right.
I will throw anything I can under the bus. That's what bothers me most about it too. Is this hypocrisy of this sliding moral scale that exists with extreme language. The evangelicals are a good example of it's all sanctity of marriage. It's all morality. It's all in the way of Jesus and everything. This guy does everything the other way around, and yet somehow, because they get the one thing passed they want to get passed, which is overturn Roe v. Wade, and then he says everyone wanted that. I mean, no, they didn't. Everyone didn't want that, and it was very clear that everyone didn't want that. And so I think because if everyone wanted it, it would have been passed years ago.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's in polled. It's wildly popular, like 70-80%, past the point of the quickening, right? Like once it's a viable birth, it's like
No,
I think
that's what we have up here.
Prior to it being a viable birth.
Yeah, I think Kamala had a really good response to that, where she was like, "Look, you have women who have a miscarriage and are bleeding out in their car in the parking lot because the doctors don't want to touch them because they're afraid of getting sued or going to jail. Nobody wanted that. And to your point, Dustin, yeah, like 75% of the country did not want Roe v. Wade overturned. They were happy with the status quo. So that was clearly bullshit. I think she did a pretty good job of like sneaking some jabs in there in her responses. Like when she talked about the size of his rallies and people leaving, and he just couldn't not take the bait.
Yeah.
he just couldn't avoid it. Just couldn't do it.
She's got an angle on him that was interesting because when Biden was still the nominee, I remember posting a meme that another thing I got in trouble for, and I made this thing is like basically it is like, I'm not saying that Trump is not far worse of a choice than Biden, but I'm saying you should have better choices than this. You should have options to have people who can do what Kamala Harris did last night, which is make a point of being like, not only can I make the points, have the policy, and get the point across. I'm young enough that I'm going to deal with the ramifications of this. She's not yet 60. I mean, when you start having politicians who are in their late 70s and 80s, they may very well not live to see the ramifications of their actions, which is part of the problem.
People don't talk about that.
No, we don't. And I think there should be a maximum age of election particularly for the United States president. I think that if you're over 68 years old, I don't think that can move as we get longer lifespans. But I think at 68 years old, if you get in office at 68, you're out at 76. If you do 2 terms, it's probably good. That's probably good. Because starting at 76 is, I mean, the thing is, best will of the world. I mean, Biden, whatever you thought of him, something's wrong. Something's wrong. And it's one of the most stressful jobs, if not the most stressful job in the world. It ages presidents like a motherfucker. Yeah. Even George W. Bush, who did little bit paint with his feet the whole time, or whatever. He was just like, and playing with his action figure, I'm going to get you, Uncle Dick. Whatever the fuck he was doing. Uncle Dick, let's share his lap.
I mean, if you look at Obama, before he was president and after, it's just markedly different. It's funny.
100% cracked. 100%.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Biden. We have almost forgotten that, a month and a half ago, that was the guy that was going to be against Trump. And the vast dichotomy of difference between the way Biden responded to the whole abortion question to Kamala's response is just night and day. And I think a lot of people were just like, oh, finally, there's somebody that can actually talk to this man like a real person. And she was able to do that in many instances during that debate, I thought.
She's a prosecutor. She's used to criminals. I mean, it sounds like, and I'm not absolving her for sins that everyone's got, particularly in the position. What was it? George Carlin said, I don't trust anyone who's running for president because they want to be president. Right. I think that's what he said. Because I mean, there is something inherently strange about that whole thing. Yeah. But I'm not absolving her of those sins. But I'm saying if you were to look at that as a clear-headed individual, even with some form of objectivity, you would have to say one of these people does not know what they're doing, to the point where they couldn't keep the job when they had it, and the other person is younger and vital and clearly educated and clearly can't, because the United States of America is becoming a laughingstock in so many ways. This is hilarious to the rest of the world, and that's sad because it's a great country with a lot of really great things. People forget it's very easy for the rest of the world to sit back and go, oh, they're a fucking bunch of hicks and they're crazy and everything. Yeah, that exists in every country. I'm sure there's some guy in Estonia who's 350 pounds sitting in a double wide. I'm sure that fucking happens. But the reality is that's what's marketing, and this isn't helping. It would be like if every time. It's like that for years. Anytime anyone mentioned Muslims on television, it was always Taliban. That's not what Muslims are. That's what a small percentage is. But the fact that he's being taken seriously is adding validity to that argument. And that's really sad. It's really sad. It's unfortunate.
We deserve better. And you're right to call her, talk about her as a prosecutor. You could tell in the way that she approached her responses and set him up for his predictable reactions. She knew how to play him. She played him. Which is not surprising because he's been played by everyone in his life. He got played by Melania. He got played by Kim Jong-il. He got played by Putin. And then he just turns around and he's like, these people love me. He got played by Xi in China. Like Melania got everything she wanted. Like I don't have the same values she has. She clearly wanted the life that she's in. Like, it's confusing to me, but like he's constantly being played, and he got played again last night by Kamala Harris. And it's not a surprise to me that he downplayed a woman's ability to, go toe to toe with him.
Of course. And the thing is any reasonable campaign manager, that's why they try to avoid it at first. Any reasonable, strategist would look at this matchup going into it and be like, I don't care. I mean, if this was the other way around, if Trump was on the Democrat side, it would be the same thing. It would be like, you cannot have these two people go toe to toe and expect it to be any sort of contest that is less than completely one-sided. She ran rings around him, and all it does, though, is codify his base of extremists, because it doesn't matter what you say, and it doesn't matter what proof you have or facts you have. None of it matters, because they want their guy, and it is a cult. That's what this has become. I'm just hoping that enough Republicans who, when he got in the first time, it was a fuck you Hillary and kind of fuck you Democrats, and I 100%
We've
understand
just more
that.
than that enough to understand it, right?
I get why that was, and I get it because Hillary was forced down your throat, and that in and of itself was whereas the Democrats did that to themselves. They thought we'll just get away with it again, and you know, she's old guard, she didn't get away with it, and so then you had Trump, and then the problem was, while he was in office, he started to pass these, like, the first thing he did was a Muslim ban. The first thing he did, it leads into that xenophobia, leads into that fear, leads into that
It was
hate.
literally the first thing. You're right.
Yeah, you will never go wrong. And all he did was try to undo everything Obama did, and then do that. And you'll never go wrong selling hate to the hateful or the scared.
Yeah.
And I mean, Hitler did it, and it worked. It works. You know, I do it in my act.
Well, I mean, they brought that up in the debate last night, though, because when they asked about Kamala's race and how he said she wasn't black and now she is, you know, it was like, you know, it was obvious. She was like, yeah, you've been trying to divide us as a country over race for decades. Back to the Central Park Five, back to not wanting to rent to black people. Like, we know all of this. This is who you are. It's funny, the Obamacare thing, all the Obama stuff he tried to overturn, including Obamacare. And when he was asked last night, you know, do you have something to replace it? He said, I have a concept of a plan, which I thought was fucking hilarious. It's like, what the fuck?
There's been so many good memes about that. They showed like
the concept of a plan.
Concept,
yeah.
Like, this man has a concept of anything.
Just like January 6th. I have the concept of a coup. Like,
it wasn't me. And then when it doesn't work, he's like, that wasn't my concept or my plan. Or my concept. His concept of a plan is like, I have a toilet full of secrets. Which, by the way, it's the best Harry Potter movie.
Oh, that is a good one. That was a good one. Yeah.
Toilet full of secrets.
Toilet.
Yeah.
Harry Potter and the toilet full of secrets.
This show might be Simon King in the Toilet of Secrets is on paper so far as our.
I like it.
Should we get into our second headline?
Sure. So immediately after the debate, almost immediately, Taylor Swift went out on Twitter and endorsed Kamala Harris as president candidate. You know, she has a lot of power, a very large voice, a very large platform, a lot of followers, a lot of younger followers. And the Trump campaign had done some like AI bullshit stuff where they made it seem like she was endorsing him. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I don't know that, you know, all those people. So essentially this election is going to come down to like 6-7 states and like 20,000 votes plus or minus, right? Like that's what's going to be the determination. So I don't know if Taylor Swift's, you know, endorsement is really going to shift those people's minds, but it's a pretty big deal.
Well, I think that the thing is that what we often forget is that usually the largest group of people who don't participate in politics are young people. People, you know, sort of 18 to 30, that range. I mean, I didn't. I'm very political now, but when I was young, I didn't get involved because I didn't see. Because I think when you're young, you don't quite understand the scope of what it means, and also you feel like, what's the point? It's such a little amount. Like voting doesn't make any difference. I think the fact is, even if Taylor Swift and other people who appeal to young people like that have a strong base with young people, come forward and say, look, no, not only is it voting is important, but this one particularly is really important. You should vote, you know, vote for this, whoever you believe, but you have to really look at what your future holds. And a huge amount of her base are young women, right? Or women. And, you know, one of the big things on the table, as it almost always is when it's Republicans versus Democrats, is Roe v. Wade, abortion rights and reproductive rights. And you have to think, as a young woman, looking at what he did in the first term, stacking the court and getting that passed, what will happen to you, you know, if he gets in again, and what you know, if Project 2025 is a legitimate thing and all those things that happen. So I think as a young woman, this does maybe have an impact. But for people who maybe I hate to use the term "make voting cool" because it makes me sound like a very old man. But
rock the vote, bro.
Rock it, man. Yeah. I remember it was like 1990.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
TV party. Rock.
Yeah.
Kurt Loder, man.
Yeah, let's do it. Fucking Guns N' Roses said I should. It's like, I don't know, it sounded like Brian Posehn there, but
Did you say Brian Posehn?
yes. About metal. Whoa. Anyway, he's a buddy of mine. I love that dude. And so I think that her coming out and saying something is necessary for her to. I'm surprised it took this long, but I'm glad that she did it. And I think she was reluctant to support Biden. But you have to see, as a young woman or as a woman in position of power, that not only endorsing the first female president, the first black female president, and a female president that is needed now because women's rights are on the chopping block once again. I don't think there's anything else you can do if you have a conscience other than say, look, you gotta go this way. And so I'm glad she did it. You're right, 20,000 votes sometimes is what it costs. And she can fill 20,000 people in a stadium 3 times
easily.
Yeah.
So she could easily do that.
Yes.
So if 10% of her fan base votes, he's fucking flushed if they vote in the right place.
It's true. I was also surprised that it took this long. However, I did feel like
from a business,
it had a lot of impact to do it at that very moment. Like,
it did.
It really moved the needle. I mean, if you look at their fundraising over that last night, it was.
I respect the manner in which she did it too. She was like, "Look, there's been a handful of things. There's been the AI controversy where that I supported her. I watched this performance. I want to make a point. And oh, by the way, at the end, I'm a childless cat lady, which I can relate to. I got my
that's fucking great.
I'm a childless cat man back here.
Childless Cat Man is also my favorite jazz musician from the late 70s. Childless
Cat Man.
That dude could scat.
I think she picked a really good time because her tour was over and she didn't need to sell tickets and rest.
Right.
So I think it's a good time too. I hate to be cynical, but I am.
So. No. Here I could add to that. Yes, and as they say in your business, the NFL season's about to start, so we're about to see her every fucking Sunday.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I thought he retired. I thought Kelsey was out.
I think it's her brother. His brother retired. Dude, did you hear him and his brother got like $100 million from Spotify?
What?
Yeah,
what?
Him and his brother.
They do a podcast.
They gave him Joe Rogan.
How do you get money out of Spotify? I've never got.
Well, I can tell you one way to get money out of Spotify. There's a guy in Georgia that made AI songs and then wrote a bunch of bots to download it. Did you hear about that, Alan? That's not in our headlines.
That was great. That was fucking awesome. I love that kind of shit. That's real Robin Hood shit. But he's just giving himself. But quite frankly, they did it with boy bands in the early '90s.
It's true.
Humans. So,
Yep.
Yeah, K-pop too.
I love it. So basically, I guess the Kelsey brothers have such a huge fan base anyway.
I don't know. Nobody
100 million
about them. Not a single person I know gives a fuck.
Actually, my ex-girlfriend is a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and she's a huge fan of that podcast. It's like the only one she ever listened to. Yes, wow. She has like T-shirts and stuff.
You never think of football players as having podcasts because of the CTE. You would think that would really change podcasts.
I think he got out pretty early.
By the way,
like what the hell is that? Like I listen to the hell out of that, man.
This week's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp and
I got a collab request from the Suicide Hotline because they're like we have a similar brand. That's right at all. That's why my Instagram's gone. Anyway,
there you go.
The suicide shit. Maybe that's what got rid of it. Anyway, I know.
That could be it.
We just talked about it in our last one. Yeah.
It is. You know what? It's this. I think that if she, I think anyone who appeals to young people need to, if they're on the fence about casting their opinion, regardless of what side they're on. But I mean, we all know realistically the majority of them will be left leaning or at very least moderate, and it doesn't matter what kind of moderate you are now. You could be right moderate and you still can't handle this because this is not old school Republican what you're dealing with now. This is
not at all
Tea Party deluxe. This is absolute insanity. It's fundamentalism. It's madness.
I don't think it's even fair to lump the Tea Party into it. The Tea Party was trying to sort it out. These guys are like, okay, well, we figured out exactly what works, and oh, we got a whole media ecosystem to back us up with it on top.
Who would have known Sarah Palin would look sane and normal compared to these
That's
people? Is
fair.
she going to come out and endorse Kamala Harris as well? How many of these do they have to put up with?
That's a good bit. Oh man, you know what? If any of these right wing meme accounts were like really worth their salt, they would drop that one. That's you know what? What am I talking
Wilson?
I got to work on this. Alan, remind me tomorrow. I need to make one of those. Right.
I'm the ghost of Woodrow Wilson, and I support Kamala Harris. I'm Taft.
Ryan, that's you.
Just dead presidents supporting
Oh my
people.
god. Oh my god. All right.
Anyone with half a mind would support Kamala Harris. Sorry.
That's great.
All right. Speaking of warmongers, next headline. I'm going to combine these two into one. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah.
And I think the next two go together as one too. So Russia said it shot down 144. That's a gross. Russia, I know that one. Russia said it shot down a gross of drones that were a part of a large Ukrainian attack targeting Moscow and Western Russia that killed one woman, damaged residential buildings, and grounded flights in Moscow. The U.S. also, in related news, and the UK formally accused Iran, of supplying short-range ballistic missiles to Russia for their war against Ukraine, said sanctions will soon follow. I've been wondering about that actually, because I keep seeing that it's like all these happen with these Shahed drones or whatever. I'm like, I guess we've sanctioned the hell out of them. What else can we do with Iran? But back to, I guess, Ukraine. Russia shot down a bunch of drones. It largely didn't do anything. It killed one babushka maybe, and some residential buildings were damaged. I don't know. I don't like the war. I don't like the violence. I do appreciate Ukraine having the ability to slap back if they're going to have their peaceful cities disrupted for no fucking reason. But yeah, it's a complex subject, and I'm not going to get it in one sentence. What do you want to talk about that? We got you on as a guest.
So I mean, I think the thing is I think what people are really looking at is there's a lot of internal fucking problems in Russia that are happening. I mean, Putin is weaker than he's ever been physically, and I think in a position of power. He cannot be long before. I mean, he was damn near taken out in a coup 6 months ago. When the what's his face marked on it. Why that guy stayed in the country?
Oh, I got it.
Idiot.
Wait, I got it. Ready? Wait, I got this.
Шойгу! Герасимов!
I love playing that whenever I can.
Shaigu Grasha.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, so he's down there taken out in that way, the weakest he's ever been. He's his old school Soviet Russian type behavior of empire building is largely what it's about. I know it's about natural gas pipelines and all the other shit that's going on, and NATO and everything else. But realistically, he's always had this bend of it. He's an old school Soviet Russian. He really is. He was KGB. And I think that people really need to focus on the fact that Russia doesn't have a lot of shit anymore. They're running out of shit. They're taking weapons from Iran. They're fucked. They lost North Korea. They lost a lot of their like more advanced military aircraft that were gone in the first few weeks, and the better troops were gone. And so now I know that the Russians are not to be written off, but what I'm saying is at this point, if you're in Russia when young men are fleeing from conscription, and now it's no longer just a war that's happening over there now. Now it's starting to happen in Russia to Russians. It cannot be long before they're just like, all right, what the fuck are we really doing here? Because we're going to run out of ships. And the Ukrainians clearly have the goodwill of the world behind them, or the majority of the world. And it's, like I said, a good excuse to, expend weaponry and bombs. And it's proxy wars are always in fashion. So why not it's always a good time to have a proxy war. And so I think that if you're Putin, who I don't know what is physically wrong with him, but if you've seen the interviews, I don't know if you have, something is clearly wrong with that man. He's either on death's door or he's got some sort of, wasting disease or neurological condition. So it can't be long now before there's an internal coup, which I think will end.
I mean, that's the only way that it ends, right?
Well, the only way it goes. Yeah, he's not going to stop. He's too old and he's too set in his way. The only thing is, I hope he goes before he does do something dumb like.
Because he's the guy that when the wall was coming down, he stood out in front of the KGB office with one pistol and told a mob of people to back off as a KGB.
And he's printed all the documents
Yeah,
too.
Alan,
I mean,
go
so there's a couple things. So you mentioned sort of the political breakdown. I mean, so Gerasimov, who Prigozhin was so pissed off at, was removed from his post for a while. He is now back in that same post. So they just cycled him back through. They are running out of shit. They are running out of their better troops. They're mostly conscripts at this point, which don't want to fight, don't want to be there. Oftentimes, when they're actually engaged on the battlefield, they just fold and walk away. And basically, Putin's deal with like the oligarchs in Russia to maintain power was, look, you guys do whatever the fuck you want, make all the money you want, screw over whoever you want. You just stay out of politics. Let me do my thing, and you can hoard all the money like a dragon you want, right? And that only works for so long. Once you no longer have a functional country, that doesn't matter anymore.
But it's
so,
I'm
not optimistic.
Still go on vacations. They hang out in Sochi.
We can still go to Crimea. We can, you can have girlfriends in Paris. So I'm not like super optimistic that we're anywhere near the end of this conflict, but it does seem like things are breaking down. The other problem with an authoritarian government is they never have a succession plan, right? Nobody wants somebody next.
No.
And so if he does, leave this mortal coil, the vacuum could be worse than what we have right now. We don't know.
It could be, yeah. And this is the danger with situations like this. And I think that the pressure being put on the oligarchs is interesting because you're seeing their assets being seized. You're seeing the jets are being taken away. They're not able to travel. They can't do the things. All of a sudden, it's not much fun to be a billionaire if you're stuck in Russia the whole time. You can get the fuck out. And whoever takes those, so they know right now that they're in a position where they can't do shit because they'll fall out of a window. But the guy that might make them fall out of a window seems to be weaker and weaker. And the way this always seems to happen in Russia and indeed in the majority of countries with this kind of governmental system is that the changes that come internally come from the military usually, and they come from people who realize that staying the course with this guy will not only, you can't steal from a store that's burning down. So they've got to stop it from falling apart so they can fix it. And I think I don't think it's anytime soon, but I do think that if he dies, that the first thing the person who comes in will be able to do is stop, because the conflict is costing them too much money. They can't afford it. And ultimately, there was on paper, you would look at it and be like, there's no way they lose this. And now you have to start being like, hang on a second. Like, hold a second. Ukraine's pushing back now. The citizens, when they start getting bombed and they start running out of shit, they're not going to be, like I said, it's no longer over there. Now it's here. And there's a big difference. People respond to that in a different way. And there's a lot of, kind of people who are very, patriotic for Russia and pro-Russia and everything else. But ultimately, when the food runs out and when you're young, when your children are sent to war and die for a war they don't need to be fighting for no fucking reason, you have to start thinking this is. And so I think this might be the step in the direction of it being over.
That is what happened with Afghanistan with them, but the problem is that took a lot longer than we were.
It did take a long time.
So,
it did take, and that was a proxy thing too. But I think in this situation with media coverage and everything, that accelerates everything in our world.
I hope
so all of a sudden, people are more aware of it. I mean, before Vietnam, we didn't even see pictures of the battlefield really, and since then, these things. I mean, Vietnam was the first time people saw that, and they were like, "This is fucking ridiculous. We can't be doing this." And that comparatively was a small war compared to what's happened since the Afghanistan conflict for me. I mean, and this is this empire building that the United States does as well. And this is going to be part of that. So God knows who they've got, but they've got a plan. The CIA and those, they have a plan for who goes in after Putin's gone. And I bet you they've been talking to people. I bet you they have. So there's probably people there that they've been like, listen, Sergey, if this guy
he kicks off. Yeah.
Just say if he died, you're gonna fucking take over. That's all.
I don't know.
We got your back over here.
Yeah, we got that fucker. Don't worry about it.
Was that specifically a Tony Soprano? I've been rewatching The Sopranos.
It didn't mean to be, but
okay,
it ended up that way.
Kind of worked out.
So it's smiling weird. Yeah, it was all right.
It worked out. It worked out.
My favorite Tony Soprano, my favorite Gandolfini is there's a voice guy that I really like named Mike O'Mara. That he would go back and forth between serious Gandolfini and soprano Gandolfini, because they're like, when you hear Gandolfini talk, you're like, just I can't even do it. He's just like nerdy, like
the voice is very different. Yeah.
It's like it's like, but I always think Gandolfini and Jason Statham are very similar voice.
Please elaborate.
What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, hold like that. It sounds a little bit like him. What the? It was like, it's like
It's a little bit.
What the
Yeah.
fuck? I gotta fucking break your fucking head over here. What the
Oh
fuck
my
you
God!
talking about? Jesus fucking Christ! I gotta fucking do this over here. This shit's gonna happen to me, and then I'll sit to you. What the fuck are you talking about? Right? That's what I'm saying. AJ's a real fucking prick. Big pussy.
He would have been better in that. He would have been better in that show. That's all.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
And you know he can do the gangster roles. Alan, I'm excited for you to get to this next one because Simon, I am actually eager to hear your thoughts on the world's easiest conflict to talk about. Alan?
Israel said it was highly likely that the U.S. Turkish citizen Azsener
Nailed it. You got it.
Yeah, was indirectly and unintentionally fatally shot by its forces during a protest in the West Bank.
They said it skipped off the ground and hit him right in the head.
Although eyewitness accounts say that they saw Israeli soldiers climb up onto a roof and target her specifically. So
remember that time they shot the journalist and it was like, duh, what? That was an accident.
Yeah, they tend to do that.
They didn't have a notepad. How am I supposed to know?
Yeah.
There's no hat with a little note for door with a little press thing in it. That's what I'm looking for.
I was looking for His Girl Friday. Israel temporarily closed its border with Jordan after a Jordanian gunman killed 3 civilian Israeli guards at a crossing between Jordan and the West Bank. So some shit popping off in the West Bank. She was there protesting the war. She was pro-Palestinian. According to her family, she didn't even tell them that that's what she was doing. She said she was going to Jordan to protest.
But did you see what she was wearing? She threw a rock.
Well, and so there are reports that the protest did get a little bit agitated. There were rocks thrown. However, when she was shot was sort of the calm after that.
Really?
Things had calmed down after all of that happened, the skirmish between them and the IDF. And they then took that position on the roof and shot her intentionally, is the story of eyewitnesses that were there.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm not familiar with that. I haven't read on it.
The story
but
specifically, sure.
And this was
the story specifically. I've never heard of Israel. I don't know. I think it's called that because when they were given the country in 1947, they're like, "Is it real?" It's like, yeah, it's real. Yeah.
Is it real? Yeah.
I think that it would not be the first time that the IDF has done something like that, if this
Not
is
at all.
the case, and it would not be the first time that they have lied about it. It would not be the first time that rocks were met with bullets. I do think that people have to, in a larger scale, look at this, because people ask me about this all the time. My general reply is that I'm not educated on most things enough to have to form an opinion other than my own. So I can say what I believe and what I think. But what I do
entirely
think
entitled to that.
but I do think in this situation is like people need to understand the difference between, Zionism and being an Israeli, being a Jew. The Jews and there are different things. So it's like I'm a little bit Jew, I'm a quarter. I like a deal. The point is I'm a Jew. So the point is, so what I'm saying is that people need to understand that, like, if you were to say that the United States if you were against the United States going into Iraq, then you were against all Americans and you hated anyone who identified as American and all Americans. That's not right. That's incorrect. You need to separate the country and the government from the people.
It's like R. Kelly and his music, right? No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like if you can't, but that's so when you look at a situation like this, that and I don't know how much proof there is that she was shot intended, but if that's the case, and I believe, I like I said, I believe it sounds very much like that. But it wouldn't be the first time this has happened too. That civilians or people, journalists have been injured. You have to look at that not from the point of view of if you attack this action, you're attacking the Israeli people and Israel's right to exist. You have to look at it from the point of view of someone doing their job in the IDF fucked up and killed someone, and that needs to, no matter where you are, in any military force all over the world, that needs to have recompense. You cannot hide behind the fact that it doesn't get all wrapped up into the thing. You can't say that calling people on actions, individual actions, that when you get into the larger conflict, there is gray area that have this. But in instances like this, where a protester is killed for protesting, or when, like I said, rocks are met with bullets, you're starting to talk about these are individual choices made by the commanders and made by the soldiers that make these choices. They are the people. They are not all of all of Israel. They're not all the Jewish people. They are
Right.
those people. That's Bob and Dave and Chaim, whatever. That's those fucking guys, and they need to be held responsible for that. The same with the other side.
Yeah.
So when we start to turn this into these giant sort of nebulous things where everything here is connected to here, well, yes, it is. But you look at these incidences as what they are. Like, I know that when the convoy got bombed, Biden called Bibi and was like, "Listen, this is fucking enough." Because
This is
looks bad on
the
paper.
food convoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This looks bad on paper, right? And then the first thing he said was, "It wasn't us, it was the commanders." Well, so if they do it from that side, then you could be able to do it from this side and be like, these people who did this need to be held. The soldier that shot her needs to be held.
I mean, because ultimately that is what's true, right? And you know, and if you want to talk about zooming things out, I mean, these are the actions that take place when you're in a war, and it's not popular to call things a war anymore. So it's all military actions. But Israel did have people fly fucking lawnmower planes into their country out of nowhere on October 7th. I proposed to my wife the day before. I woke up in, you know, bliss.
So it's your fault.
Yeah, I just remember going to take a piss in the middle of the night and opening my phone up and being like, oh, this is going to be everything we talk about for the next year and a half on my podcast, at least. Like, but like that fucking happened, right? Yeah. What's weird about this story, though, is this happened in the West Bank. And I don't like seeing how, because I think there's a couple of steps people can make. Recognize Israel was invaded. They had a horrific terrorist event happen to them, and they reacted the way we did in America after 9/11. And I wish that there was a way you could talk reason into someone going through that, but I understand not being able to. There's a separate conversation about supplying the weapons for that, but I just need to table that to finish my thought. I get that call it an overreaction, and
they're seeing red.
Yes. And but it's a war. It is a war. It's not. And the other side is fighting unconventional, and they're largely civilians and they're militias. But it's a fucking war. Like, you know, that's what. But that isn't the West Bank. And so to see this happening on the West Bank is like, this shouldn't be
different than Gaza.
This should not be. And I think we can all kind of agree that Bibi's government is taking advantage of these opportunities. And what's going on in the West Bank shouldn't be fucking happening. And they're just like, well, if everybody's riled up, we might as well. Hey, we got Afghanistan. Iraq. You guys don't know the difference. It's a 4-letter word. It's in the Middle East. Like, you know, do you get those?
I think you're right. I think there's definitely, and I think this exists in conflicts globally, not just in Gaza and stuff, but in general, the idea that people, the lack of information people have. If you think about it, people think that like Israel and Palestine are all right next to each other the whole time, and there's no other countries around here at all. The rest of Israel doesn't exist. It's all happening right here. All of this is happening right here. So when they hear of any conflict between Israelis and Palestinians or anything like that, or protests or anything like that, in their heads they put it all into the same place, because it's very hard for people don't have generally geographical understanding of their own country.
Because they don't have maps. Miss America.
So it would be like if shit was happening on the Mexican border and shit was going south of the Mexican border, and then something happened in New York, and everyone would be like, that's the same fucking thing. Well, no, it's not the same fucking thing. It's on paper you can say these countries are the same countries, because if a Mexican national is killed in New York by a police officer, you can say, well, Mexico's at war with the United States, but that is not what's happening there. So I think that people have a hard time, and I think you're right, they take advantage of this because it's hard for people to zoom in on what's actually happening. They just get a general, because most people, and I've learned this in comedy, in stand-up, I'm trying to make a reference about something. Most people don't have the privilege of time to look into things. They got snow tires to buy. They got kids to take to school. They got a mother-in-law coming over. They got to do all this shit. And so you can take advantage of that. And you see it in the political behavior in the States right now. I mean, in every country, but particularly right now, is they pick one issue, a hot button issue, and they talk about that. And then someone goes, oh, I am against that. Well, I'll go for that guy. And then they just move on. Because it's too hard to think of the thing. It's too hard to examine it, and it hurts. It sucks to get into this stuff.
And there's so much happening.
The harder our lives get, the more time we have to dedicate towards making an income that allows us to just pay fucking rent and put our kids in childcare and come home and watch 5 minutes of TV. And the man told me on the TV or on my phone while I was on my lunch break that I'm mad at this. Well, my emotions told me that I agree with him.
The man on the TV said they're eating cats.
Yeah, man on the TV said they're eating cats in Ohio. Alan has a good point.
How come gas is more expensive? Why is this time? It's so much more
bacon
expensive.
is
I never
too
have any money. And then you come
expensive.
home, and someone's like, Mexicans, and you're like, fuck, okay. And then if you have latent issues there anyway,
And those
and also never underestimate the failure of the United States education system, particularly in the majority of the states where people are not educated and they're not taught to want to learn things. And it's not true.
just
It's
learning
terrible.
things. No, the last lesson you get in senior year is civics.
Yeah, that's
So like you have senioritis when they teach you how the government works. Like
Yeah, that's
I
fucking
had a listener
ridiculous.
send me a message today saying, okay, so if Ukraine deserves to be its own country, why can't Tennessee be its own country? I'm like, is this a serious question? Like they agreed to be a state. Like, do I don't know how to engage with you at the level that meets your intelligence for this question you're asking.
Well, I mean, they could be their own country
Right,
if they
we
really
did this.
wanted to.
Them and 13 others
but
tried
it's
to
like,
not.
yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. Is like, I mean, and this is the thing we have in Canada too, because for years Quebec,
yeah.
wanted to,
Please, dude, wait. We have a listener would love to hear you talk about Quebec separatists.
Well, I mean, the thing is, so when I moved to Canada in 1982, it was still, I mean, I was 5, so I was not as politically active as I am now. A little bit. I was a Reagan guy. No, just kidding. I'm just a 5-year-old likes Reagan. It's like, I like Trickle.
Trickle down. Makes sense to me.
What happened was the French in Canada particularly felt a lack of identity and they felt like they were losing their culture. They felt like things were being taken from them. They felt like they weren't being given enough. This is all in a very, very, very small nutshell. And, you know, there's a lot more going on there. But ultimately, what happened was the French got together and decided to have a referendum on whether they would choose to leave Canada. And so in the way our system works, so the way our system works is it's like they can do that. They can separate. They can leave if that it takes a lot of work and it's a big deal, but they can.
There's an outlet.
They can do it. They chose not to do it, and they chose not to. I believe it was 3 times they had this referendum, and finally everyone was like, "That's fucking.
We're done with this." You can have 2 signs on every street. I've been to Montreal.
And it was just like so they received a lot of money from the government federally. They get a lot of money for culture and arts and everything else like that.
And I think it's see a lot from that, you know.
I think it's a really good. I think it's a great part of the country. I think it's a wonderful thing that we have this kind of, because England and France, they founded Canada kind of like not work together, but they both fought over this landmass, and people from both of those countries built this country. Mm-hmm. And they all killed the indigenous people, and that's what they did. And so, but the French actually had a better relationship with the indigenous people as well. So, given the chance that they could have left, they could have at some point left. And then you deal with the reality of, okay, if people don't want to be there that badly, but it's what people don't understand when they say about separating something like Tennessee or Texas leaving or Florida leaving is okay, money, food, power, who do you trade with? Where's your military? Who
Protection.
Takes what? Who keeps what? What's the cost? Do you take your debt with you? Do you take your chunk of it? All these things that happen. Like, so say you're in Montana and you want to separate. Where are your ports? Who do you talk to? So these are huge issues. It's very easy to say we should have our own country.
Well, I think
States,
you just recognize that you can make a concession and say, guess what? It turns out to be better part of this 50 than be my little Montana.
Exhibit A is Brexit, right? Like that's Exhibit A in this whole argument.
Northern Ireland, right?
Yes, exactly.
Is it Northern Ireland? Did I say a good smart thing?
No,
it is. I mean, their separation from the EU has been a complete disaster.
But it has been a complete disaster. I moved back to Canada in 2016, right before Brexit. And I remember I was doing a show, and there were a couple of British people in the audience, and they were watching the Brexit. As I was on stage, they were watching. And we all just thought there's no way it was going to happen. It fucking did. And at that time, people didn't realize what. And now it has been terrible. It's the country has suffered so much because of Brexit, and the people that helped push it, a lot of them have left the country and keep their money offshore. And it's a classic game of bait and switch. These people were completely fucked over.
The Russians made out really well in London, from what I've heard.
Well, also, we found out after the fact that a lot of things happening on Facebook were being driven by bad actors that were trying to make Brexit happen because they wanted to make Europe
bad actors like Rob Schneider, or like
yeah, exactly.
Hey, you're bit for me, Rob. It's pretty good.
All right. I'm thinking I'll skip to the SpaceX headlines
SpaceX?
here. Yeah,
No story
and then
about.
maybe,
Okay.
and then we can do other news because we're
Yeah.
cool. All right. So this is kind of a tale of two cities here. SpaceX launched a rocket carrying private astronauts to space as part of a mission arriving to perform the world's first commercial spacewalk tomorrow, actually on Thursday. So they got a billionaire to pay a bunch of money to go up there. They designed a special spacesuit for him so he can exit the rocket and like
It'll be the first commercial spacewalk.
Yeah, well, he's not really.
I thought this already launched. I thought I saw footage from the flight. I'm gonna look that up while you talk.
It has already launched, but they just haven't done the spacewalk yet.
Right. They've got to like depressurize.
Yeah, and so they're depressurizing the entire rocket, so everybody has to wear the spacesuits, even the people that aren't going outside. Okay. The billionaire's going out, and one guy from SpaceX or girl is going out as well. This is the furthest into space since we went to the moon.
Was that a precautionary or girl, or you truly not sure?
No, I believe it's a girl. I think it is. All right. And then secondary headline: Boeing Starliner spacecraft returned to Earth from the ISS without astronauts after NASA deemed it too risky to carry them due to technical issues. So we talked about this before, but on the ascent to the space station, there were all kinds of problems with the Boeing Starliner. They were losing helium. There were thrusters that weren't firing properly.
Door plugs that were falling out.
Yeah, there were doors just flying out. It was a whole thing.
The whole like, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. It's too many syllables. If it's too many syllables, if it's Boeing, I ain't going. That works. That works.
Way better.
So NASA decided, we're not going to send the astronauts back in that thing. We're not too sure it's going to work. They're going to have to stay up there for another 8 months till we get a different spacecraft out there to bring them back.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. So what was supposed to be like, I think, an 8-day mission turned into like an 8-month mission. Good times.
I smell sitcom. An 8-day mission. It's like Arboretum. I love the idea. Go on the street. I love the idea. Just getting trapped on the space station and you hate each other. Just the whole thing. You fucking hate each other. It's just 4 people in space. And ironically, the professor's the one guy who's just completely useless up there. He can't do anything.
And we need a hot blonde.
It's going to be like the real world. All these people trapped in a house. Who's fucking? Who's not?
Yeah.
Oh my god, we're going to get space spooge.
It'd be called "I Wish We Were Back in the Real World." The thing is, so they got to sit up there for 8 months, right? And that's not roomy. So that means whoever's up there doing their regular astronaut shit that they got to do, now they've got roommates they don't want.
Yeah.
So and it's 8 months before a spaceship's going to get up to them that can bring them back. So a spaceship, I assume, on the taxpayer's dollar. I'm sure Boeing is paying for this.
What are you talking about? Who pays Boeing?
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, you got to think about it like this. You got to think about it like this. Is like this. So we've all had someone come over and stay at our house a couple of days too long, right? Sure. But imagine you're in space.
I have been lost. Listen.
Imagine you're in space and these people just show up like, hey, can we just hang out for just a couple of weeks and we'll get you spaceship? And then again, we get spaceship fixed. And then you're sitting there with these 2 fucking people eating all your free-dried ice cream. And then SpaceX's rocket flies by with some rich prick billionaire. He's like, I just want to walk around. And you're looking at it like, what the fuck? You can't listen to music anymore. You can't play zero gravity hacky sack. You can't do fucking anything you want. You gotta wear pants on the space station now. Right? People there, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's just terrible. It's a terrible. I feel really bad for whoever's up there right now and has to deal with this. And
can't take a shit comfortably. Like,
I don't know about you, Simon, but I get anxiety. Do you get anxiety?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine how it feels to be like, hey, you're going to be in space in that capsule for 8 months? I would. I think I'd get a hold of myself, but I would have. I would have.
Well, I mean, there really is no choice.
I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be like, just take deep breaths. Just take deep breaths. I'm floating. This is not normal.
There's no way they downloaded enough Netflix to get through the next 8 months.
The dumb thing is, you think about this as an astronaut, you're gonna be like, hang on, if I'd stayed in that thing for 8 months, I'd be on halfway to Mars. Oh, fuck me.
Right?
Like you could have been doing something cool. We could
That's
be on
true.
the moon building shit, and yet I'm here hanging out with Yuri. because of all of this.
Waiting for a fucking Soyuz to get me back.
And,
Yeah.
and for some reason he's got an upright piano up here, and I don't get that. So now I got to listen to him learning ragtime jazz while I'm floating around. And the billionaires are just flying by, just some sort of space tourism. You're just trying to book a ticket online, but they're all selecting. Like, I'm not paying that.
Flying by, giving you the Smokey and the Bandit. Boop, boop, ha, like, yeah. All right. European Court of What do you want me to read, Alan? I'll do
No,
it.
actually, I think we just go to other news.
Other news? Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
your department. I don't read
Yeah.
this. So,
So-
Simon, I have this whole segment of the show where I see news stories and I go, well, I'm at work. I can't read this. I'll make Alan read it to me on the show.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so
It's
here we
such a time and like life hack. Everybody start a podcast so that you can have your co-host read you story. When I say that, it sounds like I started the show. Me and Alan started the show. I don't mean to come across that way.
All right, so this first one, the headline is Robot Controlled by a King Oyster Mushroom Blends Living Organisms and Machines, which is pretty fucking cool. So we know mushrooms,
dude. Like, yeah, I see the positive in this. That scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
So mushrooms are pretty interesting things. We know they can exist across like hundreds of square miles, and they
I
communicate
feel like
with each other.
biologists were like, look, I don't know what to tell you what they are. They're like,
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Also, they can create electrical pulses, which we don't know how they do that either, but life generally does that. So what they've done is they've attached electrodes to these mycelium, which is like the root of the mushroom where these electrical pulses come from. And then they use that to move the robot around. And mushrooms don't like light, and they know that. And so when the mushroom's exposed to light, it moves away from it. So the electrical impulses make the robot move around.
Oh, so they're still kind of controlling how the mushroom reacts.
But it's untethered from anything. It just exists by itself, which is crazy.
Wait,
so
explain that part. I don't understand that.
So oftentimes when you do something like this, it's connected to like a computer or whatever, right? With tethers, like wires, cables, shit like that. This is its self-contained robot with the mushrooms inside it, with sensors, and with the.
We're just watching the robot play the video game.
Yes, yeah, pretty much.
Awesome. Yeah,
And so
you got robots that are moving around by themselves now.
yes, based
Right.
on the input from the mushroom.
Mushrooms are
This is Krang.
So they're thinking they can use these to do a lot of different things. For instance, certain mushrooms react to different sort of electrochemical substances differently. So you could put them under water, and when there's like an algae bloom, perhaps they could be used to clean that up. All kinds of weird stuff. There
you
are
know what I see. You know what I think will be the ultimate.
What's that?
Wait, say it again.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can.
I can't hear it.
Oh, it's the Mario theme.
Oh.
That's what I think ultimately will be the result of this. I mean, because you're saying that mushrooms can now walk around by themselves. Like it's only a matter of time. Like it's only a matter of time, right?
Yeah.
But you know what? We all know that when Nintendo, when he died, his original prophecy was that he thought of the small mustached man who would control the mushroom army that would come to take the world.
I don't like this. That
This
sounds
is the
familiar.
first step.
No.
This is the first step. You're gonna have mushrooms driving Teslas. You're gonna have man.
Oh,
I'm telling you
God.
right now. They've got mushrooms driving Teslas.
In Ohio.
They might be better.
Teslas. Very dangerous mushrooms. It's weird that he would be talking about mushrooms based on the rumors. Anyway, so but yeah, that is interesting. That is interesting. This hybrid kind of, but I think people are very afraid of this idea of organic and technological kind of merging, but we essentially are that now. We're cyborgs. We just happen to carry it around as opposed to leaving it there. It's only a matter of time now. And also,
the integration is the matter of time.
organic computing is coming, and cellular computing. I mean, I think that things like this are going to become more and more commonplace. It is fascinating that it's fungi that are doing it, because, like you said, we don't know very much about them. And I think based on the last of us, we should start talking with them.
I was just thinking Last of Us.
Yeah, because the things that you just like look, I don't. Of all the things that have freaked me out the most, it's cordyceps. So I'm just like, maybe we should not. And maybe give them legs.
I feel like the key to this story to me is so I initially reacted very scared, which I understand, you know. When Alan explained some of the potential ways it could be harnessed, I thought, okay, so the key to all of this is if it's symbiotic and we can do this in like, the Lion King and like everything's great. I just don't trust the profit margins and the incentives.
Oh no, this is how it always starts.
Yeah.
It always starts with think of the good we can do, and it ends with some guy with a thing on his face planting eggs in his chest. We don't fucking want this, all right? We do not want this, because the thing is I think that a better, more emotionally capable, intellectually, because we are technologically quite advanced, but we are emotionally fucked, the majority of us. So if we could get our emotional intelligence up to where, then yeah, shit like this is great. I always say the best of us make the thing. The rest of us use the thing. And based on what you see at your average Walmart or any theme park or wherever you go, these motherfuckers are going to have a little robot mushroom walking around the house. They're going to fuck it or do whatever they do. It's eventually going to get sick of it. It's going to eat their cat in Ohio. It's going to eat their cat. And then it's going to be like the taste of flesh is delicious. And they will slowly but surely grow. And that's it. We're all that. So, I mean, the military will be like, I mean, it's just money,
Right.
Like, look what they do with information now, which seems benign, but it's horrendous. Think of the amount of shit that you give away without even thinking about it. You think you're gonna fucking care if it's you mean it can do my laundry for me? Fuck you, I'll have that in my house. You're dead.
Yeah,
You're
it's
dead.
gonna be your Roomba.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
All right.
And
Exactly.
then we're talking about like profit margins with that, like, with your TV is cheaper because you sell them your information. So they sell it to you at almost at a loss.
Yeah.
Cars
Yeah.
these days are gathering your information and they are not dropping in price accordingly to the way other markets do that.
That doesn't seem fair. If I'm going to give up basically my entire intellectual autonomy, I should be getting some sort of deal.
I should get a deal out of it.
Compensation.
Something you said earlier really struck with me, and I actually want to go back to it briefly. You talk about like, so there's people that are smart enough to bring these things into the world, and then we try to patent it and profit off of it. And like, I feel like you should deserve to be the best at it. You brought it here, and like, you deserve maybe a brief leg up. I can be persuaded to that. But like, if you just think about this, like, look, if we all took mushrooms and just stopped thinking about the life that we've lived in and just a new concept of everything. I recognize I said mushrooms on the topic. All you really get to do is escort the emergence of that new idea into the world. You don't get to own it. That's the way information works, right? Like information's natural state is to distribute. So like I would love to see you get rewarded. You get to escort its emergence into the world, but you don't get to leverage it to.
But we monetize everything. We monetize everything. We
And you
monetize
can join our
physicality,
Patreon
monetize
for
individuality.
$3 a month
Yeah,
at
join the Patreon.
Patreon.com.
I like that you've got one I have on my Patreon. It's called Tears of a Clown, TEIRS of a clown.
I like it.
It's the same price for everything because I'm a fucking socialist at heart, but I still want money, so I'm a socio-capitalist. I'm fighting with myself. But the point is, like, I don't offer anything really at all. It's really not much. I do like a shitty one-person podcast.
Oh, no, it's hey man, I like what you're doing. That's what it is.
Okay.
And that's like, we don't want to pretend like that's not what we do. Patreon started making us put a dollar amount if people wanted to buy one episode by itself. And I tried to make it 99 cents and it goes, no, you can't do that. The minimum is $3. And I'm like, okay, $1,000. So I'm like, it's $1,000. If you want to buy one episode, tell me you love me.
You got that Wu-Tang Gold album.
Right.
Gold album thing going. It's like this one podcast. People are like, I spent $1,000 on this episode.
We're all just looking for our Skrelly. Are we all just looking for our Skrelly?
We're all looking for our Skrelly, man. And I think that Skrelly, man.
That was another jazz musician.
It sounds like a reggae guy. Skrelly, man, in the house.
Hey, did you know that Harambe came from Rita Marley album name?
What?
Harambe?
Yeah,
Really?
Harambe the gorilla, famous gorilla.
The gorilla.
Yeah, there was you said reggae and it just I have ADHD. Yeah. It was a Rita Marley album name was Harambe, the guy that named the gorilla. And it also means like united in freedom or something. And it's like
ironically.
Yeah.
Because he died in a fucking animal prison.
Hey,
He
Dick's
was
out.
executed in an animal prison. Dick's
out. All right. Alan, please grab control of the wheel.
Yeah. Let's see. I think I'm gonna skip that one. So this one, China's deflationary spiral is now entering a dangerous new stage. So China's economy has been pretty questionable for a while now. We've seen it with their housing crisis. with people investing in buildings that aren't getting built. We've seen it with now with deflation. So the problem with the deflation is that it's not. I mean, we'd all like some deflation over here, like maybe like
you'd like to see prices drop, but inflation is like a runaway problem, right?
And the problem is it impacts wages as well. So especially if you're, you know, a large part of your compensation is based on bonuses or commission or things like that.
You think it's hard to get a raise? Wait till they start cutting your pay.
Yes. Yeah. So that's where we're at right now in China, and it's having real world effects in that people aren't able to afford, you know, their housing that they were able to afford previously, food, all those kinds of things. And their economy has been on a tear famously for many years, right? And now we're starting to see it kind of start to stall out. And as their demographics also start to stall out with the deflation happening, things aren't looking great in China. I wouldn't say it's like immediately catastrophic, but potentially pretty bad in the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where it's like 15 years ago, if you said what would be the number one economy in the world in 15 years, you would have probably called it as China based on the growth that it was in 18 years ago. And China this does have massive ramifications because there's particularly one of the largest consumer markets, if not the largest consumer market in the world, which is the United States and Western Europe, the two markets, both of which need these cheap goods that are supplied, need these things. If your workers can't live there, if your workers can't survive, if there's no, but then all of a sudden the supply chain for these goods that we take advantage of starts to disappear. And this is all the way up to technological goods as well. And so things going badly in China means things get more expensive here. And as it is after COVID, during COVID, corporations took a real advantage. And I mean, there's this thing where in America they call it like inflation or whatever. In Canada, there's like they blame Trudeau, but realistically, this is
wait, hold on. Actually, will I cut off your train of thought too much, or are you a pro?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to tap into something you just said. So the whole world had inflationary and bad economy over the last 4 years, right?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
We recovered better than the most of the world. Some say better than the rest of the world. Top tier, tippy top, as Trump would say.
Yeah.
So are you saying that in Canada you had similar cliches to the Bidenflation in the same way?
They blame it's always the incumbent that's to blame. Whoever's in power is always to blame because it's easier to throw stones than fix problems. And in our country, so we had in 2015, Justin Trudeau, the son of a former Elliott Trudeau, who was like one of our military leaders, he got elected essentially because of his name. He did seem quite progressive. It was after, for us, I mean, our conservatives are nothing like yours. Our conservatives are what, moderate Democrats would be to you. But to us, it's absolutely fucking insane up here. Like, we're just like, I can't believe. But we did have a guy in who sold off a lot of our assets, sold our wheat board, gave away a lot of oil, all this other shit.
What is his name? I think I know who you're talking
about. Stephen Harper.
Okay.
And so when Trudeau took over, because we were insulated from the financial crisis by the restrictions that the liberals put in. So when the United States and most of the rest of the world in 2007, 2008, 2009 had that massive financial crisis, we were relatively insulated from that because of the way our system works. A lot of safeguards in our system. We did not suffer as much. This time with COVID, we did suffer. We suffered just like everyone else suffered. And inflation has become ridiculous because our economy is so closely tied to your economy. But the difference is that our economy does not have the base your economy has. We're just recently a $1 trillion economy, I think, in the last 15 years or so. So we don't have the economic base to bounce back independently as much as you do. And so even though our economy is actually improving and getting better, and there are signs that it's all going in the right direction, because the further we get from COVID, much like the billionaire walking from the spaceship, the happier we are. We get better off because we're further away from it. Corporations need to be regulated; they need to be pulled down. I think you're also seeing in China, to go back to that, the profiteering that's occurring there. I mean, it's ironic for a country that claims to be capitalist, the amount of free market horseshit that goes on is really ridiculous. And
wait. What do you mean by that? Capitalism versus free market horseshit?
Sorry, for a country that's supposed to be communist. Sorry, I said
they're not capitalist.
Okay.
Yes,
for a country that's not, but for a country that's not capitalist on paper, there's a hell of a lot of capitalism happening. Because let's face it, you get richer in capitalism unless you're in the
exactly. The incentives are there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and so I mean, it's even easier to make money off capitalism in an authoritarian country because, you know, you can get away with whatever the fuck you want. I mean, imagine a whole country that was kind of run like Texas, which is like, well, fucking no regulations, who gives a shit? Oh, there's no power in the wintertime? Fuck it. Like, it's just like, no one gives a shit. Well, China's been operating in that way for a long time, and it's been, and I mean, there's been a lot of, you know, I think there's a mistake that North Americans and Western Europeans particularly do when they look at countries like China and they look at countries in Asia and they look at countries like Russia, and they try to apply Western or North American thinking about economic issues, about rights, about all these things. We try to apply that to a different norm. And I think that I'm not saying there isn't a lot of value. Of course, there's a huge amount of value in those cultures. They're fantastic. There's so much great stuff that comes from that part of the world, but you also have to understand that you know, China particularly is the oldest continuous civilization really ever that we've ever had. It's been going on for so fucking long, and they are very much of a certain way, and the thinking about certain things is a certain way, and so to apply our logic to that is unfair and unrealistic. And so when we see an economic collapse happening like this, there's a lot of other things going on there that we may not fully understand. We can see the numbers, we can see the economics, but we may not fully understand why these things are happening, because down on an individual level, there may be people who, you know, not fighting for workers' rights. You can't do that. And if you can't get appropriate wages and you can't survive, you can't, like, strong unions and strong, you know, getting employees paid properly, getting proper working conditions is necessary for your economy to survive long term. But if you're still operating like the Industrial Revolution in some ways, in terms of the rights of workers, that won't, it cannot be sustained. You know, it's a whole cultural and a psychology of a nation, and this applies to Russia as well, and a lot of countries that people don't really put their head around, that there is a different way of thinking in different parts of the world.
Oh, dude, there was serfdom in Russia. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Serfdom. There was serfdom in Russia at the beginning of the last century.
Yeah. It's not. I think that people need to really understand, when you look at an economic collapse like this, we look at it from the frame of the 21st century of the way we understand economics. But if you really dig into how these things happen, there's a lot of long-term, there's a long-term things that are coming to a head now. And I think with China, you're going to end up, I don't know whether it'll be a political restructuring, but there is coming a societal restructuring. You saw it in Hong Kong. It's coming. There is a massive change coming. And one thing that will light that fuse more than anything else is when people are hungry. And the hungrier they are, the sharper the guillotine gets. So I don't know what's going to happen in Chinatown. Chinatown.
Okay, Jack Nicholson.
Bob's Noodle Shack is fucked. I don't know if you guys have been there. Yeah, I mean, the unpredictability of that is actually pretty scary, pretty terrifying.
Well, and you know, you talk about China's leading the way at getting rid of the current global order. China and Russia, best buds, and the effect of the loss of the current global order will hit the elder population in China substantially, and it's going to be. I mean, if the worst predictions are true, we're going to see everything that matters right now in the world in terms of human life loss will pale compared to what's about to happen to China if things continue down this path. They have a ballooned aged population in terms of the age of their demographic buildup. And when those people die from starvation, because that's how they're going to die, it's going to be tragic. Now, if their media shares that to the world, that's going to make it, I mean, we're talking about tens of millions of people. More than 100 million.
Hundreds, and also this is also the pressures coming with environmental changes and collapse.
Oh, that was a part of it. I didn't say that.
These are the heat waves. These are massive things. You see it happening in India now. You see it happening in Europe. I mean, it happened here in Vancouver. People were dying from the heat, and the more vulnerable, the people who don't have the resources to protect themselves from that, it's only going to get worse if you don't have access to water. When you have a population of 1.3 billion people, you know. It sounds glib to say, but they're not going to notice 200 million, 300 million people. They might notice 600 million, but the rest of the world sure as well fucking notice it. And you're right, it is a canary in a coal mine of what's coming. And I think that, I mean, in Canada, we're relatively insulated from it. We live in a very temperate climate. We have more fresh water than anywhere else in the world.
It'll be bad, but it's significantly
it's
better.
Not going to be the same in that Golden Triangle area. I mean, you look at Indonesia, you look at Malaysia, you look at Vietnam, you look at all these countries. That shit's about to get really
Thailand,
fucking
all
bad.
that.
Well, and
Thailand is, Philippines, it's going to get bad, man, and it's going to get way worse before it gets better. And billions of people are going to die. And if you don't have the economic infrastructure and if you don't have the control of your people, this is going to cause that sociological change. Because, like I said, people are hungry, their backs against the wall, they're going to die anyway. Why not fucking fight the steamrollers? So it's the next 30 years is going to be a real. It's going to be a real trip, man.
You
I'm
talk
going
about
to space, on the space station.
yeah, it would be better to be on the space station. You talk
What's
about
going on there?
you talk about the history of China and how long it is. I mean, how many times have there been? I mean, you look at the history of China. How many times do you see the phrase "United China" come up? Like, oh, you managed to unite China. Okay, it's weird that keeps happening. Like that's the part that's concerning. And the next phase of that pattern is inevitably going to be worse than any.
But the first guy's name is on the product, right? So he's the guy that still gets the credit, right?
Dude, you know your fucking history. Yes, you said that, right? Yes.
Didn't he drink a bunch of mercury too? He tried to live forever by drinking mercury. And the funny thing about that is that's a case of that. We'll go right back to rich people to do whatever they want. Someone was like, people that were like, you should probably let him drink mercury. I'm like, don't fucking say shit. All right, let him drink mercury. He built this whole thing. What does it stand aside? China. Who's he? Right.
Right.
It's like
mercury.
Right.
It's like how Rasputin had the brilliant knowledge of stop taking Advil. How about that?
Yeah.
Like, what if you stop taking Advil? Maybe the guy with the blood disorder won't have the blood problem.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Don't put that in your head, Bergman. Did they call him that back then? Maybe he just had a really big chin.
Maybe
it was just a slur, and then everyone's like, "I guess that's what it's called now."
I guess
like the whole country is a roast of the guy.
Okay.
I think we should play a game and get out of here.
It is time to play.
Yeah, I gotta get going.
Okay, I did present a new
We
game.
have a quick game.
So we'll play as many rounds of this as you have time for. It's a
like 2 or 3.
So it's Alan. It's a sentence. Well, don't pressure me.
Okay.
So Simon, are you familiar with the story? How comfortable are you with differentiating the appropriate use of less or fewer?
Okay, pretty good, I guess. Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, I think.
I went 0 for 2 last episode, so
probably should be able to do it. We'll see. I don't know.
I'm
supposed to be good for it.
I'm a pedantic fuck, and I find less or fewer confusing. So
pedantic fuck. A new cologne. Pedantic fuck. It smells like someone is really into the details. Pedantic fuck.
Calvin Klein.
So
pedantic fuck. Put your leg here. Put your hand here. That's a pedantic fuck. Sorry. Sorry.
Perfect.
Points.
So I'm going to give examples of sentences that end in either less or fewer, or they contain that. And I'm going to count down from. I didn't get a timer because I'm not a professional. I'm going to count down from 3, 2, 1. So there has to be some form of a ticking clock. Otherwise, you'll figure it out. I'll start you off. Both of you just interject with whoever gets it. I will keep score.
Sorry, hold on. What am I supposed to say? I'm supposed to say if it's correct or not.
Yeah, you shout out. You shout out
less or fewer.
Yeah, thanks. So the whole game is just yell less or fewer.
Okay.
And since there's 2 of you, for once we can actually have a winner for one of these games. Normally, I just try to trick Alan. Okay.
Normally there are fewer contestants.
Normally there are.
Simon gets a point.
That's a point. Yeah.
Okay. So we have 15 items or
fewer.
Well,
nice.
Okay. Simon says less, which we've all been trained for. Alan played this game yesterday, and he learned that it is not, in fact, 15 items or less. So now the game is back to tied. So
the supermarket lied.
Yes,
they lied to you.
Yes. There are 100 Nemos in a school of fish. A shark eats 15 of them. There are now less or fewer fish. Well, 3, 2, 1.
Fewer.
Less.
Alan got it right, but again, I did ask him this question yesterday.
Fuck off!
All right.
I was doing circling C because I figured the last one was fewer, so it has to be less.
Right, you're just playing game.
I'm helping you because I feel like I got to pad Alan's score here. I feel like we can run away with it. Don't worry about it. So, okay, here's where we get into the serious part of this game. A pod of orcas capsizes a billionaire's mega yacht.
Ooh.
There are now less or fewer mega yachts in the Atlantic. 3, 2, 1.
Less.
Fewer.
There are fewer. Simon got it right. Alan.
Wait, really? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
See, you're doing what I was doing. You're just like, it's gotta be less.
It's gotta be less.
Imagine if none of these are less.
I don't remember. Actually, I was like, did I only look up one version of this game? I can't remember.
His full name is Lester, but his real name is Fewer.
So
he was the leader of Germany in the 30s. He was Lester. Fewer. Sorry. There are now fewer Jews. Okay, sorry. Sorry.
Oh God. That's fantastic.
The billionaires are eaten by orcas because they jumped off the boat. So the billionaires have now left the mega yacht. The billionaires are eaten by orcas. There are now less or fewer billionaires. 3, 2, 1. What?
Fewer.
There are fewer.
Alan.
What? Have you not figured it out? So it's less if it's like a unit of things that goes down by volume, but if it's individual pieces that are smaller, it's fewer. I act that very smugly. I said that very smugly.
That's why I thought the fish was less.
Yes. Well, because it was
it's
a
a
school of
volume.
fish. I tricked you. I didn't ask you if it was a
you
smaller school of fish. If I would have said that. Well, by the way, you're both wrong. There are no billionaires never die. They just create intergenerational wealth
Fair.
and
Yeah,
possibly
makes sense,
interspecies wealth at the cost of the proletariat. So
makes sense.
yeah. Simon has
If there were
the lead
people
Bible.
eating dogs, now there are fewer dogs.
I should have done that. Damn it.
Hey, this is why you keep getting around. All right. Next one.
Our friend Wei in Vietnam drinks some of his boba tea. There is less or fewer boba tea.
Less.
3, 2, 1. Okay, you both got it.
Less.
Those are both lessons.
Nailed it.
Yeah. So it's still Simon up by 1. So if I would have asked you if the bobas, is there less or fewer boba balls in there?
Fewer
Alan,
boba balls.
2, 1. Yes.
Sorry. Fewer.
It's okay. You're right. Yeah.
Sorry.
Alan was thinking it through while you
I
said
was
that.
thinking.
He would have said. I know you would have said less. But we can call it tied. Okay. Little Jeremy bought his first AR-15 using his allowance cash. He now, after buying his AR-15, he now has less or fewer allowance in his pocket. 3, 2, 1.
Fewer.
Less.
There is less allowance because it is.
Damn it.
If
All right,
I
Simon
had
wins.
dollars he had, it would be less.
Jeremy spoken today. You have. If you're gonna bring up Jeremy and the gun, what is?
You gotta bring up Pearl Jam.
You know what?
Right
I had an option as to how I could have asked that. Name was intentional.
Yes, there you go. I like it.
I'm just now finding out that my end of show sound was the sound we ended our last show with. So I think it's best I just announce the end of this game. Simon has won 4-2. Unless, yeah, it was only going to get worse from there. I was going to.
You have fewer points than me.
I do.
Simon, thank you for coming on and joining us. This was
It's been a
lot
blast,
of fun.
man.
Happy.
Yeah,
Happy 400. Happy 400, guys. That's
Thank you.
awesome. That's
Thank
a
you.
great
Appreciate
number.
it.
It's
Thank
good.
Thank you. I wish you the
did
best
well.
of luck with your social media endeavors in the future.
It'll never come back.
And you know what? I love your attitude at it. Fuck it, it's all a game. You're selling jokes, right?
That's all I do. That's all I can do. I mean, I'll give them away too. I don't care. I've got no pride.
Do you? I mean, I know this isn't how podcast works, but say we have someone in a place. I know that. Have you got your visa situation set up? Will you be coming to Nashville?
It's still sitting with the U.S. government. So what happens is you submit it, and it takes them as long as they fucking feel like it's the government. And so I gave them.
You don't get to tell them you've been buying ads for their passports.
No, I gave them everything in July, and I'm still waiting. But theoretically, I should be good to work in the States in November, and then we'll come back, and that's 3 years worth of Simon King yelling at people. And with no Instagram, I'll be able to play no people again. So it'll be good.
Well, we'll be
empty.
Well, you will continue to be an outlet for your screes.
Your comedy stylist.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Whoa, someone's fancy. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
dude, it's been a blast. I normally have like a funny sound, and I feel awkward that I didn't have that. I will hit our end of show button and say thank you one more time. You're
Cheers.
always
Do you want me to do a funny sound for you?
absolutely.
When a guy's banging you,
Y'all let me in his damn house.
oh, how about that?
Come in the name of peace.
LMFAO.
So what in the world is this?
Trump's pee-pee.
Why would you say something that stupid?
I come without explanations or solutions.
I'm a very sexy lady.
Cat turd.
I will not suffer this harlot. How great! An anti-American Marxist.
Ted Cruz, go fuck yourself.
Read the news.
China is asshole.
God bless the United States.
Podcasting.
Cheers, guys. That was a great episode.
Thanks.